Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Frame. My name is Dottie San Martin, and I'm really excited about our show today. We have Richard Jackson joining us today. Richard is the managing director of Youth Insights platform Boxburner, and he has grown their flagship event, Youth Marketing Strategy, into the world's leading youth marketing festival across London, New York, Berlin, and San Francisco. And he's developed a brand and commercial strategies to ensure Boxburner has thrived across the past 6 years. His can-do attitude and passion for brands has enabled him to give Boxburner a very unique positioning. I had the pleasure of meeting Richard on the very first YMS in New York City. So welcome, Richard. It's so nice to have you here today.
Goodness, Dottie, thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for those kind words. I'll pay you later. I'll pay you later.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. Richard is coming to us from London, so it is quite later in the day than it is for us here. So thank you.
Have you had a British speaker? Am I the first one?
You are. You
okay,
are.
Cool.
Now, we had someone from Australia as a surprise guest not too long ago, Jason Belmonte, professional bowler, Jason Belmonte. So we are really happy to have you here. And, you know, it's really interesting. Last week, last Thursday, as a matter of fact, was National Get to Know Your Customer Day. And it is actually the third Thursday of each quarter. And so I thought that was really interesting that there was an actual day for that. But it's really important for our viewers to understand the real value of getting to know your customers. You know, not every customer that comes in our door has the same needs or whatever. You can you know, you can segment your customers and you can create customer personas and so on and so forth. So let me ask you this, Richard, who do you think tomorrow's consumer is?
Sure, look, I think it's like a great way to start off. And you know, here at Boxburner, our focus is Gen Z. So you know, when we're talking about Gen Z, there's literally the consumers of tomorrow, the people that are going to be starting earning their monies, their salaries, that will start spending and hopefully develop brand loyalty. So when we talk about Gen Z, it's people that are born between 1995 and 2010. So unfortunately, not me, slightly out of
not me.
But slightly missed that boat. But you know, overall, there's 69 million Gen Z in the US, making up 21% of the population. So a large percent of the US population are Gen Z, enormous. And worldwide, you know, quick number, but there's 2 billion Gen Z across the world. So it's a hugely valuable and influential consumer group. And why? You know, well, you know, they're confident, they're forward thinking, they're brave, they're vocal, but maybe most importantly, and what defines them is like they know exactly what they want from a brand that they're going to spend money on, that they're going to visit on their website, they're going to purchase on the website. They know exactly what they're looking for. And I actually, by that, I don't literally mean if it looks pretty and sexy. I mean, what is their tone of voice? What words, you know, are they saying? So who is tomorrow's consumer? Well, it's Gen Z, and look, they are a smart bunch, much smarter than, you know, than when I was growing up. That you know, that's for sure. And they're teens, they're in their 20s, they're discovering who they are, their identities, and they're buying, like I mentioned, they're buying products maybe for the first time. It's the first time they're encountering a brand. So it's important to build that brand awareness and loyalty with this consumer group, to, you know, to get in front of them. And one of the key missions of Boxburner, of what we do, is to inform brands, to help them see the value in reaching this market. Sorry,
well, and especially, you know, many of the viewers here are in the bowling entertainment industry. And it's really important for us to understand what that consumer for tomorrow, what that younger audience, what those needs are, and you know, how do we build an experience that's going to be attractive to them? We want to understand them so that when they do first of all, we want to understand how to bring them to our centers. But then when we get them there, we want to understand what their expectation is of a great experience, and we want to be able to deliver on that experience. And the only way we're going to do that is know what they want and what they need.
Absolutely, absolutely. To know the people that are hopefully going to come through those doors, what's in their heads, you know, what is it that's going to spark their interest. So that absolutely spot on, which is why, I guess, being able to understand this market is crucial, I think, to anybody that's watching today, for sure.
Yes. Well, you know, how do the latest trends and habits and attitudes of consumers impact our marketing?
Crikey, I mean, goodness, like, you know, I know we've only got 20 minutes, so we're like, where do we begin? Yeah, and this is the biggest challenge, because Gen Z are always ahead of the trends. Like, they really are. Not only are they creating the trends, but they're the ones that will then move on so quickly on to the next. They're a very discerning group of consumers, and that they aren't impressed by brands that have and that use, unfortunately, outdated marketing tactics to engage them. You know, clickbait and so on. Like, that they're not impressed by that. They want content. They don't want content and messaging that's patronizing, and I use the word values like with huge weight, that they want to see a brand that's in touch like with their values. And this is why it's more important than ever when marketing to any generation, but specifically Gen Z, that those trends are referenced and caught up with, and and mentioned. And we run a lot of research monthly at Voxburn, and I have actually pulled out a couple of stats to throw to throw out. So, like, if you are pen and paper, but a couple of stats that we found around marketing and branding, that young people, they want to know that their brands have an opinion and are inclusive. 88% of young people we found from our survey would like to see more diverse representation in advertising. They're looking at the brand and they're not feeling included, whether it's race, sexuality, gender, body shape, all of those areas. 78% want to see more diverse racial backgrounds, and although I'm not technically Gen Z, but me, I'm Jewish. I don't see much Jewish like marketing happening in like the brands that I cater for, so I can absolutely akin to that. 73% want to see advertising and marketing with more people with disabilities, so they feel represented.
And we're going to pause for just a moment. It looks like we have Richard has frozen.
Oh, can you hear me? Dottie, should I go? I'll go and come back.
We will keep going as Richard has dropped out. I'm hoping that he will be able to log back in. But just to give you an idea, we are looking at changing the marketing to make. There you are, Richard.
Here we go. It looks like my computer got the coronavirus, but we're
oh no! Oh no! I think it's time for it to get vaccinated.
Yeah, cool. So I'm back. Sorry. So so they want to see themselves represented in their marketing. And Dottie, we mentioned this kind of in our pre-call, but 73% of young people, they want to see like more diverse body shapes in their marketing. So they're looking at something and they can see themselves, reflected. Yeah. So
well, and that's a really good point. I think a lot of times when people are starting their marketing and they're starting to look for images, or they're starting to create the look, they gravitate towards the pretty, what I call the pretty people, and that's definitely not something that is.
Well, because it's easy. It's easy. It's very easy to think something will look cool if there's like a pretty, somebody pretty like on the front cover. It's like that's the go-to. Whereas actually, if you actually stop and think, and what do your sons or your daughters or your nieces or your nephews, if they look at this, what would they think? Would that image make your daughter feel good, feel bad? Would they feel empowered by it? And I absolutely guarantee, actually guarantee is the wrong word. I would imagine the majority of the time, if you stopped and thought, you would think, no, I don't want my kid or somebody that I know to really see that image. How would that make them feel? So
yes. Yes, and it's nice to see that people are starting to understand the value of doing that. So
I
let
think
me ask you.
if people on this call want examples, if they look at like the fashion brand ASOS, in the fashion online retailer, their marketing, you'll be hard pushed to find that classic, you know, arc stereotypical model. They've got real people in their marketing, and in the UK anyway, they are off the chart with how much engagement they've got with young people. Why? Because they've got people on their website that look like people.
Yes, of course. And it's much easier to identify with someone when you can relate. That looks like me, that, I can relate to
Absolutely.
that. Well, let me ask you this. What are a few things that we should know about Gen Z when creating experiences in a bowling or entertainment center? What should we be aware
Um, well, I think the first thing that I guess I was eager to mention was within the Youth Trends report, we found that activities such as bowling and bowling centres and movie theatres were one of the activities that young people were most excited about doing. So 84% of young people commented they were most excited about going to a bowling centre or a movie theatre.
of? Oh,
So
what wonderful stat.
yeah, so
We
look,
definitely need to put that in the comments because that's
yeah.
very, very
So
promising.
84% of Gen Z want to get back out there. Maybe it's for another topic, whatever you're reading in the news, about people that want to go out, like whatever,
Yeah.
they absolutely do. They can't wait to get back to real life, real life experiences. And I think that's probably one of the magic around going to a bowling center is those, of course, it's nice to win a game. And do you guys have turkeys? Do you know what a turkey is?
Of course, three
Okay,
strikes in a
cool.
row.
Yeah. So like, yeah. So like, it's good, like they get a turkey win, but actually, they're probably there also to catch up on, news from school or TV, like whatever, and they can't wait to get into that environment again. And look, some of the things that I guess, that help attract and bring Gen Z, through the door, I think, personalized and interactive experiences are absolutely, spot on. And, I'm not as familiar with bowling centers in the US that are in the UK,
Mhm.
but I know the ones that are in the UK, if they're filled with arcade games and so on and so forth and whatnot, it's like, is that of the now? They're most probably out of date arcade machines where they can probably pick up and go online and get something without paying $3 to play a
Sure.
racing game. So if your bowling center is filled with that, I'm not quite sure they're the type of experience that maybe that they want to be doing. How Instagrammable is your bowling center? Have you got great artwork that young people can get selfies behind and share it online? Those sorts of experiences, I imagine, we imagine are the ones that young people really want. They want opportunities to take great photos, to share with their friends that they're
They
out
sure
at a
do.
bowling center for social media. So, and I actually, on like a personal note, I don't know how I feel about this because I'm all for, although I do like social media, I'm much for seeing people talk face to face than sharing photos. However, I'm not Gen Z, but that's what they want to be doing. So creating experiences that are shareable online. So making those bowling centers as interactive and as fun and as fluid like as possible. So when the young people come, when Gen Z kind of walk through those doors, they look around and they want to get photos, they want to share their experiences online. So I think that for when when this question came up, I thought, what, that's probably, and it's something that can be done very quickly. It's quite a quick fix thing to do, I
Yes,
imagine.
it
Yeah.
is.
So look, absolutely. So I think, creating experiences that young people can share online is absolutely vital. I mean, look, there's no greater marketing than word of mouth, and what better way than using social,
That is
Hopefully
absolutely
yeah.
true. That is absolutely true. And as you briefly mentioned earlier, they're looking for, a personalized experience. And today with bowling and entertainment centers, there are many opportunities just within the software that drives the scoring in bowling centers to create personalized experiences. You can take your photo from the console and you turn that photo into an animated character on your scoring screen. So there are many opportunities for you to be able to take and really make a personal experience for each and every individual
Yeah.
that's coming out. And we do know that Gen Zers generally like to, they enjoy doing things as a group with their friends and hanging out. And so entertainment centers have that opportunity to deliver on that, and it's,
Yeah.
right there at their fingertips.
And that's, I think it's just ensuring that myth, CEOs or whatever in their boardroom thinking young people just sit on their phones all day and sit and watch Netflix or whatever. Well, of course, like they do, like most of the population, but they want to, like you said, have real life experiences with friends. And like what a
Yes.
great thing to do at the moment. And like we should be celebrating that and encouraging it. We've all been stuck inside for so long that what a great thing to be doing, for sure.
Isn't that the truth? And it's so easy to, when you are having fun in a bowling center, it's just it's so easy nowadays for them to include that and take that experience to their friends while they're in the bowling center. And for the bowling center, that's just such a wonderful opportunity to turn your younger customers into, your to your advertiser of bringing
Well, yeah,
in.
it's like they're brand ambassadors. When they leave that bowling center, hopefully they're going to tell their friends that they had a great time when they got X food or so on and so
Yes.
forth. And again, it's like that. Don't get too micro. I don't run a bowling center, but like what food, what drinks are being served in that bowling center? Is there an area that offers vegan burgers, veggie burgers, ethically sourced snacks? Obviously there's boundaries and financial implications that come with having that sort of inventory in a store. I'd appreciate that, but it's like just thinking down to that level, they feel so passionately about what they consume and are health conscious. Is that part of that bowling center resonating? Is it feeding that desire for young people?
That's right. And when it does, and when they go in and they do find that they're able to enjoy, a beverage that maybe is their favorite beverage, or, a burger, a vegan burger or whatever, and they post that on social media or share that with their friends,
Yeah.
that's the very best. That user generated content it's authentic. It's coming from someone that your potential audience is going to
I think
trust.
you referenced earlier that you had a speaker on that had crafted their own beer, and the proceeds were going to the Black
Yes,
Lives
he's
Matter.
coming up actually in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it hasn't
Oh,
been
no,
yet.
no, it's okay. You can tease it all you want.
Yeah. So look, there's this awesome person that's created this like great brand, and it's
Yes.
like if a store is like Stockton or Burlington is like supporting local craft beers, it's like,
Yep.
oh my goodness, like how incredible is that? Although thinking about it, the age limit in the US is different to the UK, so maybe they can't drink the alcohol. But you get the idea though, don't you? So yeah.
Of course. Yeah, it's really, and that all goes back, Richard, to really knowing what's going on with that customer, what's in their mind, what things are important to them, what things are turnoffs. So the same thing, if you are not aware of who your customer is, and there's something in your customer journey or even the experience once they get there that is a huge turnoff to them, that can work against you as well. And so really understanding who that customer is, what they want, what they like, and just, being that people person, genuinely immersing yourself in to what they, what lights them up, and being able to deliver on that. To me, I think it makes the job even more fun. But certainly,
And purposeful. I think it's about purpose as well. And you're marketing to, if you do choose, and whoever was listening to now, I hope you are going to choose to start marketing some segment to young people. It's like it holds a value and a purpose in society. And know that like if you are engaging in the right way with Gen Z, you're probably affecting their lives more than just a game of bowls and hang out with friends on a personal level, or hopefully touching a part of their brain that makes them feel good about themselves.
that's right. And Richard, one of the biggest challenges that centers and just businesses in general are facing coming out of the pandemic is the it's so hard to get people to work. And you and I were talking about this before we went live about, if you are trying to attract a particular audience, and you're struggling, look at who you have on your staff and make sure, I always recommend to centers, if they're wanting somebody to head up their social media because that's, foreign territory to them and they don't know, then reach out to your younger employees or even your younger customers and let them help you with that. And people that are coming into your center, when they are welcomed by, if you have some Gen Zers at your front desk that are working your front desk and they're able to communicate with them, and it's a feel good interaction. That's really important. That's the first step of that experience for that customer coming through your door.
Absolutely. Look, I think certainly, what you referenced about if you are looking to attract, young talent to come and work like in these centers in, whatever capacity, it's like you've got to, well, apart from the fact that the brand's got to be appealing, but they've got to want to come and work for them. They've got to see something within, the brand that makes them, do you know what? They're on the same page. And I feel wildly passionate around this notion of like looking around the room, whether it's the boardroom, the staff room, the CA room, and if you look around the room and everybody like looks like you've had a nightmare. Like there is something inherently broken within the ecosystem because you're blinded. And I hope that doesn't sound rude, but it's something that my company have been starting out and something that we were aware of in our early days and fixed it very quickly. Yeah.
Well, and so many times that younger generation can allow you to work smarter and not harder as well. And so, getting a good mix of employees is very important. Just like you want your customer coming through your door, you want to be able to be appealing to all ages, because in this line of work, it is something that anybody can enjoy. So to take a look at your staff and, evaluate, do I have people on my staff that can relate to the people coming in? Because
Absolutely.
the needs of that employee are just like the needs of that Gen Z consumer coming through your door. So absolutely no different. So do you feel that the pandemic resulted in any new expectations of Gen Zers?
Crikey, with the pandemic, expectations for brands. Yeah, I think what became apparent was there was expectations for brands to have a voice and an opinion on events, and that became like very clear. And it's like whether it's Black Lives Matters or other issues, if a lot of young people want to know, well, what does this brand think of that? What's their stance on it? And a really quite a little anecdote. There's a huge brand in the UK called Yorkshire Tea. It's a tea company. It's Yorkshire Tea, and a tweet was posted on their Twitter feed. Quite an awful like racial slur on their Twitter feed. So their social account retweeted it and said, at whatever, please stop drinking our tea. You're not welcome to have our tea or something like that. And in the UK, it went nuts. Like
I can imagine.
This brand, Yorkshire Tea, and it's FY, if you ever come to the UK, right, I'll bring you some Yorkshire Tea. It's amazing. But this brand, who are huge,
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah. It's delicious. They were like, we don't want your custom. Do not shop with us. You are not aligned with our values. And they took a stance on it. And that's just like one example. But it's like, young people, they want to know what this brand is thinking. What's their views? What are their thoughts? And maybe most importantly, if you are going to express your thoughts on something, is it authentic? And yes. I think if we just relate to you posting a black square,
they'll see right through that. And actually that becomes a turnoff.
Well, absolutely. So if you are posting, if you are having a view, if you do have a standpoint, how incredible. And I champion you and I cherish that about any brand, but goddamn, like make it authentic, because in 3 weeks later, you'll probably be pulled up on it. And that's something that I think a lot of brands fall victim to, you know, plaster over the wound when really they should be, you know, so out of the pandemic, you know, young people, they want to know like what these brands thinking. And I don't think it matters if you're you know, an ASOS, a Nike, or you're a small startup round the corner running a takeaway. You know, you're still a brand, you have a voice, you want to attract people. So I think this really applies to anybody. If anything, the smaller you are, the more exciting and authentic it can be, because you've not got any heads telling you what to do.
That's right. And you have to let them be aware of what that is too. They're not going to just automatically know that.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And so I think that's really like one of the you know the key things that we've seen. But then you referenced like slightly earlier that this notion that young people, you know, just want to sit in and watch Netflix or whatever. Well, they don't. It's a part of their lives, but it's not their, it doesn't define who they are. And our research shows clearly that they are a very social, a social group, a social cohort of a generation. You know, absolutely. They want to be socialized. They want real life experiences.
Yes, definitely. Well, Richard, I really do appreciate you being with us today. I want to make sure we are going to put a link in the comments of a brochure where our viewers can get some more information on Boxburner and Boxburner Plus. Last week was just the online YMS online, and I know coming up is the New York YMS.
Yes,
so
we're coming over, hopefully. Yeah, no, it's November the 13th and 14th, I believe, in Brooklyn to host an event. Yeah.
So definitely an event that will be eye-opening for sure. I've had the wonderful opportunity of attending all except last year when it was online only, and it's always a very enlightening to see just what we need to do to keep our businesses growing year after year.
Absolutely, and look, it's been such a pleasure. And I could talk about this all day. It's been such a pleasure, and I think what just kind of one, not advice, but just one like takeaway, just like to give people watching. It's, I think, if you know, like, don't be fearful like of this generation. You know, don't be scared of you going to get it wrong, because unless you try, like, you just don't know, and you don't need enormous budgets to make things happen. You know, go on TikTok, you know, go on your niece or nephew's TikTok, spend 10 minutes looking at what young people are posting, and it'll take 10 minutes while you're having dinner, and just get a vibe of what's happening. There's so much resource out there. Don't be afraid to try, because unless you try,
you're never going to know.
You
got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and obviously head to voxburner.com to read more about what we do. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Richard, thanks again. I want to remind our viewers that next week, next Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern, we're going to have Brian Kaplan, and he's going to chat about the importance of your Google business profile. Jay Nephew will be hosting him on the show next week, so you won't want to miss that. Definitely something we need to be mindful of going forward. And viewers, I hope that you have enjoyed having Richard as our guest today. And if nothing else, I want to leave you with this. Go out today and take a look at your customers and really try to understand who they are. And those every third Thursday of the quarter, when it's National Get to Know Your Customer Day, at least do it on those times. But it's really a good idea to be aware of who your customer is on an ongoing basis. So go out and see what you've got and make sure that you are bringing in tomorrow's consumers today. Richard, thanks again. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Thank you so much. Cheers.